Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Olympus E-3. Here it is, the E-3. It's the successor to the E1, and as such it's the flagship model in the Olympus DSLR range. Unlike other Olympus DSLRs, it's based on the 4/3 standard, which means you can mount any 4/3 compatible lens on it. I've got it mounted here with the Zuiko Digital 12 to 60mm. This is a very popular lens to go with the E3, and if you'd like more details on this lens, head on over to the CameraLabs website. Now, Olympus had no less than 4.5 years between the E1, which launched the 4/3 standard, and the E3 here, so it's had a great deal of time to work on a great deal of improvements. First of all, the resolution has doubled, although the E1 only had 5 megapixels, so that gives the E3 10. Now, that doesn't sound like a great deal compared to the 12 and 14 megapixels of other DSLRs these days, but if you check out the results pages at the CameraLabs website, you'll see that the E3 is capable of delivering very high quality results. The E3 body is also extremely tough. If you pick it up, you'll realise that it's an incredibly solid camera. It's also dust and splash proof, so you can use this in a number of challenging conditions. Like the E510 before it, the E3 features built-in image stabilization that works with any lens you attach. Now, you won't see the effect through the optical viewfinder, but as we'll show later on in the video, you can preview it on the screen at the back. Olympus was the first manufacturer to put live view into a DSLR, so it's no surprise to find it on the E3 here. However, making it much more useful than many of its rivals is a fully articulated screen that will flip out to almost any angle. This gives you great compositional flexibility. As a semi-pro DSLR, the E3 is also very quick. Olympus has upgraded the AF to an 11-point system and even claims that it's the world's fastest AF when used in conjunction with the 12 to 60mm lens. It also features fast continuous shooting. The E3 is rated at 5 frames per second, and here's how it sounds. Removing the lens from a DSLR always runs the risk of dust entering the body and casting shadows on your images. But like previous Olympus DSLRs, the E3 is equipped with the SSWF anti-dust system, which, while not completely infallible, has proven the most effective in our tests. And there's even more besides, so without further ado, let's continue the tour and take a look at the E3's control system. Like most higher-end DSLRs, the E3 is not equipped with a command mode dial. Instead, if you want to adjust the shooting mode, you'll be pressing this mode button here while turning the thumb dial. You'll also notice buttons here for the autofocus and the flash modes, along with a set of icons here on the side of the viewfinder head that show their dual purpose. While we're looking in this direction, let's just pop up the internal flash. That goes to quite a decent height. Popping that back down again and moving along to the other side of the body, you'll see that it's dominated by this large information screen here, and it's also backlit. If I press the button there, you can see some backlighting. There's a great deal of shooting information displayed on this screen here, and you'll also see additional details through the optical viewfinder and also displayed on the screen at the back. While we're here, you'll notice that there's both finger and thumb dials. Again, that's the norm for a semi-pro DSLR and allows you to very easily change a lot of settings. Some of these buttons are quite small though and not very easy to press. The exposure compensation button here and the ISO sensitivity button are indented, and sometimes it's not very convenient to get your fingers in there, especially while you're turning a dial at the same time. Turning to the back of the camera, you'll see the usual 4 direction cross keys here, and also buttons for adjusting things like the autofocus points, because of course there's now 11 of them on the E3, so there's a lot more adjusting that you can do. Down towards the bottom right of the body, you'll see 2 levers. This one on the left is the power switch, and this one on the right flips open the memory card door. And as you can see, the E3 can take both XD memory cards and compact flash. It's also compatible with the UDMA standard that allows you to shoot and flush the buffer at very high speeds. Turning to the other side of the camera, let's take a quick look at the ports. Behind this flap here, you'll find a USB and a standard TV output. Below that, a socket for a DC input. Above these, a port here for an optional remote control, and round the front, a PC sync port for external lighting. Finally, let's have a look at the battery compartment underneath the E3, again like all of these, behind a weatherproof door. If I remove the battery here, you'll see that it's the standard BLM1 that has powered almost every Olympus digital SLR since the original E1. Press the info button on the E3 and it will display a vast amount of shooting information on its screen. Now many of these settings have got dedicated buttons, but like earlier Olympus DSLRs, there's an alternative means by which you can adjust them. If you press the OK button in the middle of the cross keys to the right of the screen, you'll see that one of these options has been highlighted, the sensitivity. Now I can use the thumb dial here to directly adjust this setting. Or if I press the OK button once more, I'm actually presented with a dedicated menu. And by pressing this OK button and using the cross keys, you can basically put this yellow highlight over any setting you want. For example, the quality here. I could change that to RAW, for example. Now let's take a look at the way the E3 handles live view. It's a traditional system that uses the main sensor to deliver the live feed, and as such the mirror has to get out of the way, so there'll be a slight delay and also some noise as it activates. To do that, I press this button to the lower right corner of the screen. You'd have heard the noise there and also seen a little message there that recommends we close the eyepiece shutter, so I'll just do that now. And what you see here is the live view that's in front of the camera right now, and to prove that I'll wiggle my fingers. There you'll also see that 11-point autofocusing system. If you want to autofocus in live view with E3, you'll need to press the AEAF lock button to the right of the viewfinder. Here's how it works in practice. So what you heard there was the mirror flipping down in order to take a reading, the autofocus process taking place with a double beep to confirm, and then the mirror flipping up again to resume the live view. But you'll have noticed that the picture didn't actually disappear. That's because the E3 actually freezes the picture so that it's a bit more reassuring in this respect. Like other live view systems, you can overlay various graphics on the screen. Press the info button, you see some shooting information. Press it again, you get an alignment grid, and you can switch that to a scale or to a golden selection if you prefer. Press it once more and you'll see a live histogram in the bottom left corner. And if I wave my fingers in front of the lens, you'll see that tonal range adjust. Press it once more and you appear to be back to where you started, except with a green rectangle in the middle of the screen. Now this is actually the manual focus assistance mode, and I can use the cross keys to move this square around to take a closer look at any part of the image. Let's check out this part. If I press the OK button, we'll now zoom into a 5 times view. And by turning the thumb dial, you can increase that to 7 times, or even 10 times. Now this gives you a very precise view of what the camera is actually going to capture on its sensor, and it allows you to then use the manual focusing ring to make sure that that focusing is absolutely spot on. So I'll just do that right now. And there we go, that focusing looks pretty good to me, and you know that's exactly what you're going to capture with this sensor, so it's very useful if you're into macro or other specialist types of photography. This magnified mode can also be used to demonstrate the built-in image stabilization. I'm hand-holding this in live view, so let's take a look at that 10 times view, and you can see I'm really wobbling quite a lot here. But if you press and hold the IS button, you can see a preview of that stabilization. You can see it's very effective. As soon as I let go, the view becomes very wobbly again. The Olympus E3 is without a doubt the most powerful DSLR the company has produced to date, and a worthy, albeit long-awaited successor to the original E1. This camera is extremely tough, it's fast, it can deliver great quality images, and of course as a 4/3 model you've got access to some of the best lenses available right now. Olympus has also managed to address a couple of issues concerning the 4/3 standard. On previous 4/3 models, looking through the viewfinder was akin to looking down a tunnel, but on the E3 the viewfinder is now much larger and brighter, and in fact inspires you to use the 4/3 aspect ratio. The previous fairly basic 3-point autofocus system has also been greatly improved to a new 11-point system, and when coupled with this lens, under the right conditions, it can certainly perform very quickly, and we've got more details about that at the Camera Labs website. So the big question is, would you go for this model compared to say the Nikon D300, which costs the same amount, or perhaps Canon EOS 40D or the Sony A700, which come in at about 2/3 of the price? When weighing up that kind of decision, you have to carefully compare all of the features and also the system as a whole. And to help you do that, we've got detailed comparisons between all 4 of those models at the Camera Labs website. So to see how the E3 measures up against the best of the semi-professional digital SLRs available right now, head on over to our full review. You'll find results, comparisons, and of course up-to-date pricing of the E3 and its rival models. So to find all of that, head on over to www.cameralabs.com.